Hey everyone, it's Egwin from Scope of Life and Beyond Systems. Today I'm going to do a review. Now I know this isn't something you would normally expect on my channel, but I assure you it is of relevance to things that we've discussed already and are going to discuss in the very near future. Now normally on my channel you'll find things about natural movement, natural training, consciousness, emotions, mind, nature, and how all those things are actually interlinked with each other, plus how each and every one can benefit from reconnecting with those aspects and can benefit from learning some very fundamental basic principles of natural movement and consciousness work for his and her personal development and overall health. Now, review right now is going to be about the Tadeevo Minimalist Shoe. And why am I going to talk about a shoe here? Because, as mentioned, it's a minimalist shoe, so it has to do with natural walking and with a natural locomotion as human beings. And this is something that's very important. Here is what I'm going to do. I'm going to explain a little bit about natural walking, why it is important, what it actually is, and why it's important to allow freedom of movement in your feet. And then I'm really going deep and I'm really going to discuss this Tadeevo Minimalist Shoe, how it works, what the key components of it are, and what my first experiences with it actually are. Now let's jump right into it. Natural walking or barefoot walking or minimalist walking. And just to be clear, right now I don't want to discuss whether it's a heel stroke, a midfoot stroke, or a ball of the foot walk, like a front foot stroke or something like that. All of those three aspects, as I keep mentioning, are important throughout a regular day or a regular life. Each and every one of us should use all of those three things depending on where we walk. So it depends whether you walk uphill, downhill, sideways on a hill, if you walk just on even ground, what's the surface you're walking on? Is it gravel? Is it just a concrete road? Do you walk down the stairs, up the stairs, and so on and so on. So that's not what we are going to discuss today, but what's really important here is the foot is comprised of a lot of different bones and a lot of intrinsic and extrinsic muscles. Now the intrinsic muscles are the muscles that literally run inside of the foot in order to stabilize it and in order to allow for a lot of adaptive ability in terms of adapting to the surface that you're walking on. Now, natural walking or barefoot walking, minimalist walking in this case, means that you have the most immediate interaction between your foot and the surrounding you're walking on. Now, most shoes nowadays do not allow for that instant and immediate interaction because the soles are too thick or too sturdy or something like that. So, minimalist and barefoot walking literally refers to the act of walking with as little as possible between your body and the surface you're walking on. This is important for a number of reasons, and some of them I'm going to tell you right now. First of all, it improves blood circulation in your legs, thus also increases your overall blood circulation in your whole body. It also takes away risk of injury. It doesn't matter whether it's slippery in winter or icy in winter or you're doing some kind of sport. Whenever your foot is actually used to use the intrinsic muscles and the extrinsic muscles to stabilize rather than being trapped in a rather rigid sort of almost casket thing, whenever that's the case, then your foot has a lot more adaptive ability, thus more mobility, and the risk of injury is a lot lower. Another very important aspect is that by stimulating the foot, you actually increase and boost your immune system because it definitely boosts your whole lymphatic system. Not just that, but just this direct interaction, this using your foundation the way it's supposed to be used. This is something that really helps all organ systems in the body. that runs via reflexology areas in your foot, via meridians and stuff like that, but also very physiologically, just the pure fact that you have a sensible interaction, you have a sensitive feedback from your feet that's constantly changing and not all the same. This triggers something in your head. It makes you alert to your surrounding and it pulls you much more in the moment, which again increases your ability for mental and emotional stability, for mental clarity and focus, and in general really helps you to feel this grounded aspect. Speaking about grounding, there are two different things here. First of all, it's this biomechanical feedback mechanism where you have this direct physical interaction with your ground that makes a lot of these neurological aspects happen, where your actual center of awareness in your body lies, whether it's up here or it's lower down in the feet, which naturally gives you more stability in the body. The second aspect here is grounding when you really walk barefoot, not with minimalist shoes, but literally barefoot, because then you also take on electrons from the ground, which play a very important role in terms of actually reducing inflammation in the body. There's a lot of very interesting work out there. A lot of doctors also start to take on this new lead on reducing inflammation. If you want to check out, there is a lot of interesting work from Clint Ober out there. All right, now let's jump back into our natural walking. So this energetic or electrical aspect of earthing, of grounding and earthing, yes, that's a term, that obviously depends on really having your skin touching the earth. But all the other aspects, they can be done with minimalist shoes. And this is why I'm talking about this very specific type of shoe. A minimalist shoe literally means that it is a shoe that doesn't support the foot beyond its own natural ability. So most shoes that are out there on the market at the moment, they're built in such a way that people who don't know how to walk anymore because their whole coordination is so messed up already that their foot is literally moved, emulated in such a way that it resembles healthy walking. But whenever you are walking naturally, whenever you want to walk like your individual body is built, you have to get rid of all those rigid shoes and switch back to natural footwear to also benefit from all the things that I've been talking before. Now, without any further ado, let's just jump right into looking at this specific type of shoe and talk about it in more detail. So this is what I got in the mail today. My first thought was, hang on, I never ordered any books. And when I opened it, I realized, all right, it's not any books, it's actually my Tadeevo shoes. So that for me personally was a plus already, because it literally is absolutely minimalistic packing. It's very thin, it's very light, obviously, it's cardboard, and when you open it, it's literally just the shoes in there. No additional plastic, not even additional paper, it's literally just the shoes in a extremely minimalist packing size. So I really love that already. Taking a look at the shoes now, they are extremely lightweight. Those are the 43 size shoes. They should fit my foot perfectly. The funny thing here is that I really took a look at the size chart at their website, at the website of Tadeevo, and I measured my foot and I was exactly between 43 and 44. And so I'm really curious how this works out, because I took the 43, and this is why the first thing I'm going to do right now is try this shoe on. And right now I can already tell you it feels amazing. Now I didn't even do my shoelaces so far. It's amazing feeling. It's like a little bit of a thicker sock from the first feel to it. Let's see how this works out as soon as I stand up. Yeah, that's my perfect size, so you can definitely trust that size chart up on the Tadeevo website. It's absolutely amazing. Obviously, there is a lot of space in the shoe. It's not that you really like swim in it or anything like that, but it doesn't really like contract or pull or push your foot in any specific position that it doesn't want to be in. So that being said, let's talk about the shoe off my foot a little bit more. First thing that falls into one's eye is the minimalist sole. So it's about 5 millimeters thick. It is extremely soft, which I like a lot. One thing that will have to be tested here is how it actually feels when you walk outside on gravel or on stones and stuff like that. So how much of that feeling actually arrives in your foot, on the sole of your foot. The other thing about the sole, it's absolutely with a 0 drop between heel and toe area. There is also no negative sole installed. Like a couple of years ago, some shoe designers, they started not just to do a 0 drop, but to actually create a negative sole, which meant that the ball of the foot, in the ball of the foot, the sole was thicker than in the heel area. Now, in this case, you do not have that. In this case, it's really just a completely neutral sole, which again resembles your own foot the most and is again a very big plus for me. Looking at the rest of the shoe, now all the seams, they really look done quite well. I like the color combinations. There are a couple of color combinations on their website. The material really feels very comfortable, and I've been using barefoot shoes before. Many of them are made out of almost a neoprene-like material, like wetsuits or stuff like that. This shoe definitely isn't, which I guess, yeah, makes for much better breathability of the material. So this is something I won't be able to test for quite some time, because right now it's snowing out here in Austria. But as soon as it gets warmer, I'll get back to you with more information on how sweaty it actually gets in those shoes. But from what I can see right now, I'd say probably not at all. Like, they really look quite well ventilated. For those of you who think, yeah, well, but in my climate it's always a lot colder, they also do winter versions with thicker material that should be a little bit warmer as well, but this is one of their summer models. Other than that, something that I really like, for me it's always important that there is no suspension. There is also no additional things that try to shape your foot. And when we take a look at this basic shape of this shoe, now you realize it is extremely wide out front here. Now when you take a look at the foot, obviously a foot also has its widest part right out front here, which is really important, because this means that this shoe actually helps to support the natural form of your foot a lot. Now, some of you might say, well, but if the sole is that thin, then how are my joints protected? Now, my question in return would be, what do you think how the joints of an animal are protected? And actually, we aren't that different. We just, due to our modern day life, most people unlearned healthy movement patterns that actually naturally protect the joints. Apart from that, if that's not enough for you, I'd give you one more detail. A study was done checking the pressure inside of the knee joint while walking in people using just their feet alone, so going barefoot, and in people using modern running shoes with thick soles, so with cushioned soles. And what that study found was actually that people using running shoes with a cushioned sole had more pressure in their knee joints than people walking barefoot. And it doesn't matter if you walk front foot or heel stroke wise. Why is that? That's because whenever you have a cushioned sole, this is an additional unstable element that your body has to balance out. This additional unstable element is between your foot and the ground, so it is something that you do not have immediate control over. It's nothing that you can balance internally. It's something that you have to balance externally. So obviously you need your muscles to stabilize that, but it is not something, it is not an instability that is in your foot. It is an instability that is added on the outside. So in order to balance that, in order to stabilize the foot with that added soft layer on the outside, with that cushion on the outside, your muscles, your agonist and antagonistic muscles need to have a higher foundational tension level. So we're still not talking about movement. We're still talking about just the amount of tension that your body uses in order to feel safe on that unstable ground of a cushioned sole. And whenever the tension in agonist and antagonistic muscles around a joint increases, the foundational tension, the pressure in the joint also increases. That's just basic physics. And that's why if you learn to walk barefoot or with minimalist shoes in a proper way, then you actually do your joints and your whole body a tremendous favor. Now, who is such a shoe for? I'd say each and every one can learn to walk with shoes like that. Actually, that's the natural way of walking. Each and every one should start wearing those shoes, then we would have a lot less problems in the first place. That being said, walking barefoot is really extremely important also for your spinal health. Because the more tension you have in your legs, the more tension you'll naturally also have in your spine, in your shoulders and chest area, also in the cervical spine, C1, C2, so the connection between your spine and your occiput, your head. So this is why using such minimalistic technology is actually something that takes you back to your natural ability to move. How this actually works outside is something that we are going to take a look at right now. So, Tadeevo outside test 101. So as you can see, the conditions out here in the forest are still quite interesting, considering that I'm testing very light summer shoes. But still, it'll do for what I want to show you. So now what am I looking for in this test? I'm going to do different speeds. I'm going to do small jumps, and I'm going to try and step on different surfaces. So first of all, on really muddy areas, soft areas, but then also on tree trunks and on roots and branches and stuff like that, also on sharp edges, to test how much do I actually feel different very sharp objects from the sole. Another thing that I'll be testing with stepping on tree trunk and stuff like that is the lateral stability. So how much is my foot actually rolling around inside of the shoe, which might be the case since there is no specific artificial stabilizing aspect in those shoes. But what I want from them is that they feel like a glove. So I do have a more or less direct connection to the sole, but still with all the mobility. So a crossover between being stable in them and not slipping around in them, and having control inside of the shoe. So that's what I'm looking for. Let's take a look at how this goes. First couple of steps are just simply walking around in the mud. That feels quite nice actually. You really have a good connection to your ground. Now stepping up here, you can see that the shoe completely adapts to the surface I'm standing on, just like a really natural foot would also do. Those speed changes also test the heel to toe stability, so how much is my foot actually shifting front to rear, how fast can I stop, do I still feel stable inside of the shoe. Now those are all aspects that for regular walking aren't that important, but for me specifically, and also for maybe some other people who want to move through nature, this might be interesting. Again, what you can see here is that I can almost grab that old branch with my foot, almost like literally closing a fist around it, trying to step on this sharp edge here. Yeah, it really feels nice, so it doesn't hurt your foot at all. The protection from the sole is absolutely amazing. You feel your surroundings, you feel the ground, but in no way it hurts your foot. So the protection aspect is absolutely there. I'm doing those one leg balances up here also again to check for lateral stability and to get really a feeling of how that shoe works. Overall, very good test. I love how the shoe performs in this specific area. I'm really curious about what that shoe will do as soon as I step on rocks and walk in gravel and stuff like that. But those tests will have to wait until there is a little less snow outside. So far, I'm really very, very pleased with the performance of the shoe. And yeah, it's a good one so far. Really, you can stop on point, especially heel to toe stability is amazing. You can stop on point. Left and right, it's a little bit more unstable, which was to be expected. It's not a climbing shoe, so that's fine. But personally, I absolutely love it, even for jumping around on different routes and stuff like that, as you've just seen. All right, now back from the outside. There is another very interesting aspect here. As you've seen, it was quite muddy outside. There is very interesting aspect here. My shoes got dirty, as you can see here. And the other shoe, the right one, was just as dirty, but it's not anymore. This is an aspect that I also wanted to try out. It's really easy to clean those things. I didn't expect that to do the mesh material, but it literally only took a paper towel, a wet paper towel, and rubbing it a couple of times with a little bit of pressure from the inside so that the mesh is actually partially collapsed when you really clean it, and to get out all the dirt, and the shoe is completely clean again. Another aspect that's really nice, although it was quite wet and muddy as mentioned before, those are the socks that I've been wearing before as well. They are completely clean. They are not wet and they're completely clean. So obviously, I suppose if you really like walk in a river or something like that, and you really, yeah, it's really wet, obviously you'll get water in here. But another very positive aspect about that shoe, the area where I cleaned it with that wet paper towel, it's dry already, and that was like literally 5 minutes ago. So this is something an additional benefit I really like about those shoes. As mentioned before, a lot more testing will be done by myself in terms of those shoes, especially walking on gravel, walking on stones, and running around in nature with those things. What's really interesting is I think those are absolutely amazing shoes to wear in a regular day setup. So I'm not quite sure how well they actually perform on a mountain or something like that, but I will get back to you with more information about it as soon as the snow is melted completely on the mountains, and I'll get out there and be back with a second review part in a couple of weeks or months. So far, it's an incredible shoe. As mentioned, there are different models out there. They have vegan models, they have winter models, so you can really check that out on their website. There's a lot of interesting things up there. Tadeevo is a company from Poland, as mentioned, and they are really interesting people. They do amazing stuff. And this, for those of you who ask why I'm talking about this shoe and why I'm pricing it so high, actually because there are not a lot of products out there that really support natural walking, and not a lot of products out there that are actually built with the health, the long-term health of people in mind, especially when we're talking about shoes. Because the shoes that most companies build are shoes that are partially created to actually sort of just put a little bit of color over the problem. In terms of, they do not solve a problem. They only prolong it. They, in parts, even make it worse. Because if you wear a shoe with an arch support, if you wear a shoe with a heel support all the time, and if you wear a shoe with a rather hard, in terms of flexibility, sole, and a sole that has a lot of cushion, then the shoe is doing a lot of the work that you should be doing. So you literally give up on things that your body can do on your own, on its own. And this is always a bad idea, because what you don't use, you lose. And you losing the ability to use your foundation safely isn't a good idea structurally and for your overall health. And at the moment, I'm always searching, I'm always looking around, getting to know new technology and finding new things out there. At the moment, those are so far the best minimalist shoes that I personally know of, which is why I tell you guys about it, because I think this is really a product that I can wholeheartedly say this can help people a lot. Now, maybe one word of caution here. If you've never worn minimalist shoes before, and if you are not a barefoot walker already, so if you're used to those arch supports and stuff like that, or you do have medical issues with your feet, like completely collapsed arches or something like that, then it might be a good idea to start wearing things like that slowly and gradually. If you have a completely collapsed arch of the foot, it is definitely a good idea to first of all try to restructure it. This can be done parallel to wearing something like that. And why do I say be a little bit careful? Because remember, whenever you demand something of an area that is not trained, this means that the body needs some time to readjust and to reactivate that area. So if you've been walking for 30, 40 years with shoes that didn't allow your foot to move the way it's supposed to move, then I would suggest start wearing those shoes gradually, like start by wearing them from here to the supermarket and back. Next day again, next day again. Couple of days later, you try them out for a couple of hours a day and so on, because you will feel the strain in your arches, which isn't a bad thing. It just means that your muscles are retrained. And this is something that might take a little bit of time, and that's fine. That's how it's supposed to be. But that doesn't take away any of the benefits that you'll get from it. It's just something. Ease into it. If you spend hours and hours and years not using your feet, then take at least a couple of weeks or a couple of months to allow them to revert to a natural form and a natural healthy movement practice. All right, so Tadeevo Minimalist Shoes. Personally, from my side, definitely a thumbs up. They are great. I'm really going to look forward. I'm looking forward to use them a lot more. And yeah, if you liked that video, if you have any questions, please let me know. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure to share it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to have more updates on natural movement, natural training, consciousness, how they are linked, as mentioned before. And other than that, I wish you a wonderful day. Stay also tuned for the second review of those things in a couple of months. I'll put the link to their website in the description below. Have a wonderful day, enjoy, and think about that barefoot or minimalist walking. It's really something that you can greatly benefit from, and that's the reason why I did this video. Have a wonderful time. See you soon.